Chad Daybell on trial. It is finally here, and the day of reckoning is coming. They're saying about maybe 6 to 8 weeks for this whole thing to pan out and us to find out what exactly the jury thinks of all of the murderous allegations against Chad Daybell. It's a crazy case with so many different layers that go into the supernatural as well. Joining me to discuss, Eric Faddis, defense attorney and former prosecutor. Eric, a case like this that has so many bizarre layers that involve religious apocalyptic beliefs that just, I mean, they go straight into, ghost hunters, if you will, where it's just like, okay, you believe that? That's special. How difficult is something like that to defend when your client, kind of has that different mindset of the world and lives in it?
It could be a double-edged sword. On the one hand, the initial reaction to a layperson of hearing all this mysticism and these wild reports from these people is like, God, these people are nuts. They're probably capable of anything. They're
Hmm.
detached from reality. On the other hand, perhaps his defense tries to use that and just says he was so detached, he was so under the spell of Lori Vallow Daybell, or however they decide to play it, that he was vulnerable and impressionable, and perhaps that factors into a part of their defense. So I think that could go either way.
How much more difficult and steep of the hill does it make it when you now have children involved? I mean, it's not that it plays it down when it's one thing and it's Tammy Daybell, it's a spouse or somebody that someone allegedly murdered to go and be with their new partner, in this case, Lori Vallow. But then you add kids to the mix, and that's got to play very different to a jury than just the adults that was allegedly murdered.
Completely agree. I think yeah, a jury might see, consenting adults engaging in their own far-fetched ideologies as, that's not something I would do, but
Mhm.
they're into that. Who cares? And so long as all consensual and everything. But when we have children involved, and those children are clearly negatively affected here, that they're deceased, they're killed. I think the fact that I think the jury has less tolerance
Mhm.
for that sort of eccentricity, especially when it's negatively affecting the kids.
How do you spin it? I mean, how do you play that to? How do you defend against something like that?
Yeah, it's tough. I think that you probably get a mental health evaluation, and you probably try to find a psychologist or psychiatrist who will say, "Look, Chad was not in his right mind when all of this was happening." Now, I don't know if they have that, and I don't know if that's true,
Mhm.
but that would be an approach that I would at least explore when dealing with such wild ideas and beliefs that the Daybells have.
I mean, they didn't really defend it very well in Laurie's trial. Obviously, not much of a defense at all was put up. But what was, I guess, kind of hinted at, probably could have been done a hell of a lot stronger, is if you don't believe the thing you're killing at that moment in time, in this case, the people that you're killing are people, then it's not murder, or they're not guilty of committing murder, even though they did commit the act. But if they truly believe that these were zombies, obviously plays to the mental health area of things, where obviously there's going to be punishment involved, but more so in a mental health facility. Do you see them going any route like that with Chad? Chad has not presented himself anywhere near as out there as Lori, although we don't hear it from Chad as much as we did from Lori vocally.
That defense could be a tough pill to swallow for the jury.
Hmm.
Basically, um, the prosecution has to prove that Chad Daybell knowingly killed these children, and meaning that they were children. And so, if the a defense that could possibly be raised is that he didn't think they were children, he thought they were demons or zombies or whatever else, and therefore he didn't knowingly kill a child,
Hmm.
even though he was like outside of his mind. But for a jury to buy that, especially when we have not one child dead, but two children dead, I just think it's too much. And I think a jury's going to say, "Hey, look, if you're so far afield that you think your kids are demons, there's some other reasonable action you need to at least consider, and it's not killing your own kids, and it's not being acquitted for it."
Yeah, I mean, the fact we have bodies, literally melted in their backyard in buckets. I mean, as horrific as that is, I mean that's got to play even far worse for them. Uh, than if the kids were just never found.
Oh, I think so too. I mean, like I always say, these juries are made up of human beings, and so you watch a news report about a shooting, that's traumatic. But if you see a horror movie where a person is, slashed up in front of you, that's even more impactful. Here, the nature of how these children allegedly died and what happened to their bodies afterwards is so grotesque that I think a jury is just going to be is going to revile
Yeah.
that information, and I think it's just going to be a huge problem for Chad
Yeah,
Daybell.
I mean, it's just a matter, hey, here's how we found them. Okay, game over. We don't care what else you have to say. Hey, it's Tony Brueski. If you like the podcast, be sure to like, subscribe, and press that bell so you don't miss any of our updates on the cases we're following for you right here at the Hidden Killers podcast from True Crime Today. And thanks